Hi, and welcome to the very first live broadcast of Through the Lens with Lady KB. I am KB. I am thrilled to do this first live broadcast with someone who I love collaborating with. I mean, like we have a lot of witty banter. We go back and forth, but honestly, she is a sweetheart. So please welcome my guest for today as we dive into all things TIFF 2020, Sharronda Williams, aka Pay or Wait.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, Sharronda. How are you?
Let me back up. It's catching all my blemishes and this and stuff. I'm okay. I've gotten my life together. I had a calling that this weight is not going to fall off by itself, so I'm going to have to start working out. So yeah, like I have my little runner stuff. Like, don't I look legit? Like I'm working out. I'm about to be a influencer. Okay, I'm about to be a lifestyle influencer selling skinny tea. Okay.
Yes. Okay, girl. Well, you know what? I definitely I support this new lifestyle. I'm always about being healthy. Whatever that looks like for the individual, I'm all about just being healthy, making sure that we are good to go. Okay.
Yes.
Um, so let's just dive right in. Whoo, boy, this year has been a journey in terms of film festivals. I mean, obviously, with South by Southwest getting canceled, that spurred a lot of different things to happen. So TIFF really is kind of the first festival that really kind of, just dove right in into the like virtual pond and virtual pool. Okay. So let's just go ahead and talk about what were your top three films of the festival this year? Because it was a little bit different. We're used to going to Toronto. We're used to seeing things in person, getting a lot of interviews. This year, I'll be honest, I didn't get any interviews. It was strictly just reviews. So tell me about your top three.
I mean, who had time for interviews when you're on like 48-hour deadlines to watch as many films as possible in 2 days? I can't. I felt overwhelmed. This is the most overwhelmed that I've actually felt at a film festival. But I still had a great time. I loved TIFF. And so my top three would have to be Nomadland, also To Another Round, and One Night in Miami. Like those were my top three films. I know everyone loved Nomadland, but just the way that as someone who is like a loner, but then to be like thrusted into this new world of nomads, of not really necessarily knowing that we still have so many people who are nomads, and to really make a film that's very compelling, but it's not a huge cast, right? And still to draw you in the way that the film is shot, the editing with the film. Like, I don't even like being outside. And after watching Nomadland, I was like, I want to be out with nature. I want to go look at trees in a forest now. Okay. Like that's how she made me feel. Like she made me feel like I care about the outdoors. That was the effect. I'm just saying.
Girl,
But
you hyping it up. You hyping it up. I haven't seen it yet, and
I
we'll
gotta
get
watch
to
it
a
for
little
New
bit
York
later on
Film
films we're
Festival.
anticipating. But
You gotta watch it.
okay.
I think it's out for New York Film Festival tomorrow. I think. Yeah. Another round was one that really surprised me. It's a film starring Matt Mikkelsen, who is fantastic in this film, about these guys who they're kind of like, I guess you could call it a midlife crisis, especially with Matt Mikkelsen's character, where he feels as though that he's just not the same person that he used to be. He doesn't feel fun. Like he used to be this really outgoing, fun, and creative person. And he seems to be failing in all areas from a professional standpoint, from a personal standpoint, and also too from a relationship standpoint as well. And so they create this thing where they're basically going to drink and study to see like if if their life changes in any way, shape, or form. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to give it away, but it was a very surprising film. It's in subtitles. I do want to let people know, but I mean, I don't mind reading films with subtitles, but that's a problem for some people, but that's y'all business. So I thought it was really fantastic. The last final sequence is amazing, and it was such a great way for me to end the festival. Like I really loved it. But also to One Night in Miami, which is Regina King's feature film debut. I was just like, Regina, honey, you did not have to come and slay like this at the festival. But I just thought that it was so great to watch this film. It's so relatable, especially as, you know, just being a Black person, right? And the conversations that they have throughout the course of the film are conversations that we're still having as a community today. It's something so, it's just so, I said I'm going to retire the word timely, so I'm not going to say that, but it is a necessary film for conversations that we're still having, for issues that we're still having in the community. And really, Kim Powers, who just, the dialogue in the film alone, Kingsley Ben-Adir was fantastic as Malcolm X. Like, the entire cast is just amazing. I'm going to stop rambling, but I love One Night in Miami, but I'm going to stop rambling. Okay, I'm sorry.
First off, you are not rambling. You are giving us life. So let's start there. Second, I do just want to say hey to everybody in the comments and thank you for watching us do this live chat about TIFF. So I am going to start with One Night in Miami and second everything that Sharronda said, because that was actually my top film of the festival. You know, I have seen a lot of things that have been directed by Regina King in the television space. And so, you know, I already knew that she was a beast and a powerhouse, but this, you know, feature directorial film debut, woo, child, it is so, so good. I really cannot wait for Amazon to drop that release date so everybody can watch, because when I tell you that Kingsley Ben-Adir is Malcolm X for me, honey, he is Malcolm X for me, okay? Like, I mean, he brings something to the role of Malcolm X that I have yet to see on screen. It's just different. And I can't even really...
They humanize words.
Yeah, like I can't
humanize them. It's you always grow up that Malcolm X was this militant civil rights leader by any means necessary. If we have to use violence and force, that's what we'll do. But this film does so much more of humanizing him as a man of religion, as someone who was in a very dark time in his life where he really had to put his religion above the relationships that he has with people in the Nation of Islam, and just him as a husband and a father. And it's something that they just so eloquently and gracefully did, that you still understood what Malcolm stood for, but you just saw him more so just as a man, before the civil rights leader that we know him as.
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't even those relationships kind of with his family, which I do feel like the Spike Lee, you know, Denzel Malcolm X really touches on him being a family man in similar ways for me. For me, with this film, that was very different, was seeing him as a friend. I think seeing him as a friend, just kind of with his homeboys, you know, in this context of like being on this journey, was just a little bit different. Like, he could let his hair down with these other Black men who also understood kind of the balance of using their fame and their power for something greater and for, you know, kind of the good of our community. So I think he is extraordinary. I think that, you know, something that I don't want to overlook is Aldous Hodges' performance as Jim Brown. You know, I think that there's just this one scene in particular that I cannot wait for you guys to see between, you know, Jim and Malcolm X, that is just so extraordinary, because everyone is letting their guard down. And Jim really makes Malcolm think about the reason why he's doing everything that he's doing. He really provides some additional context in only a way that like a close friend could. Really makes him kind of question, okay, are you sure that you're doing this for the reasons that you think that you are? So yes, and obviously, you know, Eli and Leslie, they give you know, great performances as well. Leslie, honey, true. I mean, by the end, when you singing A Change Is Gonna Come, honey, now that actually took me over the top. So I will say the film is extraordinary. I ended in tears. Everyone should definitely see it. And I will use the word timely because Sharronda will not, but it is timely. And, you know, in ways it is just like watching a mirror about what's happening right now, but it's also exhausting because it's looking at a mirror of what's happening right now. Like, have we truly made, you know, kind of the strides and the changes that we think that we have? I think that's a question that the film poses. My other two films, though, y'all, whoo, The Kid Detective. Oh my God, Adam Brody. This movie is so good. And honestly, y'all, it took me on a journey that I truly was not expecting. So, I enjoy Adam Brody. I think he is really funny as a comedic actor. And so, the last thing we really saw him in was Shazam. And great, great, great. So I was intrigued, like, what is this kid detective? And honestly, I got the entire premise all wrong because first off, I really, truly thought it was going to be centering on a child. It's not. It's centering on Adam Brody as an adult. He basically was a child detective who solved tons and tons of crimes and mysteries within his neighborhood as a child and grew up and really wanted to see, kind of those same, he wanted to be that same detective growing up. But life really happens. And, there is a mystery that he is unable to solve that really, that he carries through his entire life. He carries the weight and the guilt of not being able to solve this one particular mystery. But then a whole lot of other things unfold. Child, when I tell y'all normally I know what the end of a film is going to be, I 1000% did not know what the end of this film was going to be. And they definitely pulled the rug right out from under my feet. But Adam Brody gives, a very earnest performance. In a lot of ways, he represents a lot of millennials who grew up as kids whose parents really told them they could be anything and they could do anything. So they really were hard hitting, striving for tons of things as children. And, then they grow up to be kind of very anxious and unfocused adults and not really knowing what to do with their lives. So I think he hits the nail on the head. The film also tackles mental illness in a lot of ways. It is truly a murder mystery. It's a murder mystery. It's a child abduction mystery. Like, honestly, y'all, it was just a lot of things happening. And I was like, yes. Say it again, Sharronda.
They abducting people? They abducting people?
Child, when I tell y'all it is a film, it is that film. So, yes. So that would be my favorite.
Did it get distribution?
So that I don't know yet. I don't think that we've got any updates on that yet. When last time I checked, it hadn't, and I didn't know where it was going to be, but we'll see. I definitely feel like everyone should see the film because it is extraordinary. So I'm hoping it gets distribution and then, it gets out in the world soon. So my final film of the festival, I think it's really going to go to Pieces of a Woman. The acting in the film is extraordinary, like to the point that we were in group chat talking about, okay, did she really have this baby in real life? Because the birthing scene alone was the most realistic birthing scene I've ever seen in any piece of art. Like, I was like, oh, we sure she not having a baby for real? She don't have a secret child running around here? Like,
because that took me back. Like, my best friend, I was with her when she was like in labor at her house. And like, it literally took me back to the moment. I was like, this is exactly how it was. Like, it went from 0 to 100 real quick. And I was really shook. I'm still traumatized by it. But I was like, yeah, that first 30 minutes was on point.
Yes. So when I say that we need to give Vanessa Kirby all of the things, we need to give Vanessa Kirby all of the things. Because, I mean, really, truly, the first 30 minutes she owns, period. Like, and then everything after that. So basically, Pieces of a Woman is about the loss of their child. Vanessa Kirby and Shia LaBeouf are a married couple in Boston who unfortunately, lose their child during childbirth. And honestly, it's them trying to pick up the pieces and, kind of figure out who's at fault. They go through the process of suing their midwife who was there during that time, who actually wasn't the midwife they had chosen. But as we all know, birthing is unpredictable, the timeline. And so their actual midwife was in another labor with another woman. And so they sent someone else. And it's hard to watch. I won't lie, because, the grieving process for her and her husband just looks so very different, and everything that they're going through, but the layers and unpacking it, it's beautifully shot. It's just a really, really great film. So, yes, I will definitely say, Pieces of a Woman. That's going to be my third and final, best film of TIFF. So, Sharronda, do you have one or two other films that you want to throw in as honorable mention? Like, they didn't make your top 3, but you really enjoyed them?
I actually do. Thank you for asking that question, KB. I didn't realize my nails were so long. My gosh. So, The first one was a documentary that I actually watched called MLK FBI. So this, I was actually very happy that I had watched this before One Night in Miami, because I think it helped provide additional context to something that's happening to Malcolm throughout the course of the film. But yeah, so it's a film that really shows the relationship between MLK and the FBI, like during the civil rights movement. It really showcases how the government, the FBI, tried to really like take down Martin Luther King Jr., find any information that they could to, you know, expose him as a liar or to really kind of tarnish his image. Because at this time, I mean, he was named one of the most dangerous Negroes in America after his I Have a Dream speech. And so it really goes into just the surveillance of Martin Luther King Jr., whether or not you felt as though that if he was being, you know, had all this, if the FBI was following him for so long, then was his death, could it have been prevented? So it does a really great job of raising those questions for the audience, really having you think a little bit deeper into it. And then also too, it also does a great job of looking at America's relationship with communists, and how like a lot of civil rights leaders was included in that. So like the fight for change, the fight for inclusion, the fight for being equal, like how you were perceived as someone who was trying to disrupt America. And I think it was just a really fantastic documentary. The footage was just so great. It looks so crisp. I was just like, how did they get all this great footage, you know, from the 50s and 60s into the documentary? But it looked fantastic. Even the subjects that they interviewed was great as well. But also too, so this was like my guilty pleasure movie. Okay. So it was a film called I Care a Lot, starring Rosamund Pike. Peter Dinklage is in it as well. And so essentially her character, she is over this, she is a caretaker, right? So for those in the elderly community, if they have no one to take care of them and they can't really take care of themselves, she's kind of assigned as their power of attorney. And then she basically has control and access to all of their things. And so I think it's a great film that really showcases like how we still need to advocate, you know, for the senior citizens, for the elderly community, how they can be taken advantage of, how corporations and people who don't have their best interests at heart really can take advantage of them in very detrimental ways. But it's like a cat and mouse movie that it literally, like what I thought the movie was about, it just wasn't. It just kept evolving and evolving. And I was just like, wow, like all of y'all are just shady and dirty. Like what the heck is going on right now? Like when the movie starts, you think it's going to be about one thing. And then 30 minutes in, you think it's going to be about something else. And then it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. And I think it's just one of those films that even though I feel as though the cat and mouse goes on a little bit too long towards the end of the film, it still had me like highly entertained, highly engaged. Like I just cannot. Rosamund Pike is fantastic. Peter Dinklage is great as well. I love that he has films where they can, I mean, he just did such a great job. He's great at comedy, but I really enjoy him in this film particularly. And I think that him and Rosamund Pike, they're very great adversaries to act off of one another throughout the film.
So do you know if this film got distribution?
No, I don't think it has yet.
Okay. Well, I definitely want to check it out if and when it does, for sure. I'm hoping it does.
You still didn't watch it after I personally sent you a text message and told you to watch it.
I couldn't watch it. Remember, they had to give out links, which I did not get because they didn't give it to me. So.
Okay.
Yep. We know access is not always guaranteed. So.
The story of our lives, okay?
So I can't, you know, force anyone's hand, but I did not actually get the link for that. But it's okay. Hopefully, you know, I'll get some.
You're claiming it right now.
Yeah.
So your honorable mentions.
So my honorable mention goes to Concrete Cowboy. You know, I have never seen Caleb McLaughlin in a role like this, and Caleb grew up like.
Caleb said, y'all gonna put some respect on my name, okay? Yeah. I am not here for Stranger Things. I'm a man. I'm a grown man.
Yes, Caleb was serving. Like, honestly, stellar performances by Caleb McLaughlin and obviously Jerome. Like, those two, I mean, honestly, can do no wrong in my eyes, honey. In terms of like when they get on screen and they really are just captivating. They have just this alluring presence that really draws you in. And so I will say, that film took me by surprise. As a Black Texan, I grew up around, kind of Black cowboys. So I know that we exist still now to this day, that it's still happening. But I didn't have a lot of knowledge on the Black cowboy scene in Philadelphia. And so it really was just, good to be able to see kind of how they function up there. Obviously, there are political aspects to everything. So there are political undertones with the city of Philadelphia and the stables in which they are housing their horses, being in the middle of the city. And of course, the city wants to tear it down, build condominiums because they want to make more money and have more income. So there's just a lot to the storyline. So not only is it about those political aspects, but it's about, Cole, who is Caleb's character, him really just kind of growing up and transforming. And, he gets involved in the wrong crowd and, trying to get out of that lifestyle, using kind of horseback riding as an escape and also just a new hobby that is positive, that can bring some additional change to his life. So yes, a lot of layers about family. Obviously, I would be remiss if I didn't say Idris Elba is in the film. He plays Cole's father, Harp. And so it's about their strained relationship and how that takes a turn as well. So my honorable mention goes to Concrete Cowboy for sure. And so, my next question really just is around films that you were anticipating prior to the festival that may have underwhelmed you. So I will say, I actually didn't see any film that underwhelmed me. I was just always pleasantly surprised. Like I also watched David Byrne's American Utopia. I was pleasantly surprised. I was pleasantly surprised by The Kid Detective. So is there anything that you saw where you, kind of felt like it was hyped up? And for TIFF, not New York Film Festival, because I know we have one on our list for New York Film Festival that was hyped up, and we were both kind of like, eh. So, but for TIFF,
which one? And I was like, okay,
for TIFF, is there one that you have that kind of underwhelmed?
I'm pulling up my list right now because I want to make sure I get this name right. Of course, it's not in mine. This is so disrespectful. Yeah, it's like that movie called Atlas Cloud. Here it is. Shadow in the Cloud, which I was like, why am I watching this right now? I should have known. I saw people say that it was bad, but I'm someone who I really like to watch things for my own and make my own decisions about it. But I just was not a fan. It's about a World War II pilot with top secret documents. She's a woman. They end up capturing, they're on this flight for her to kind of carry out this secret mission that no one knows about. And then they are basically met with a presence, an evil presence amongst the plane. Okay. So I think that it did a really great job of kind of getting you in this intense moment, because all of this kind of takes place in one setting for the majority of the film. But after a while, once you kind of understand what the mission is, what the purpose is, you're kind of just I just know. And it's just not realistic for the things that happen. I can't really talk about it more because I feel like I would give everything away. But a lot of the characters just don't make sense. There's no development with any additional characters. I love that it is females, that is centered on a woman, especially a woman in World War II who can take care of herself, fight for herself. I did love that aspect of it. But I just think from a plot standpoint, it just loses its way just halfway through. That's the only film that I just really just didn't like. I had issues with other films. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, I have another honorable mention, but it's not going to be for everyone. There was a film called New Order, it is crazy. So it's about this couple. There's tensions that are rising. They're trying to there's a clash between the rich and the poor, and it's a foreign language film. And so essentially someone ends up getting kidnapped in the middle of this civil unrest that is happening. And, they're fighting to try to survive. That's all I can really say. A lot of people will probably try to compare this film to Parasite, but it's a lot more graphic. It's it's very intense. Like after the first 20 minutes, the film is just intense, like until the end of the film. Like it never lets up on you. There's things that will be very unsettling. There's things that might be triggering for some, but it really keeps you engaged. It makes you uncomfortable. It makes you question the role of government in helping protect people, the balance between the rich and the poor. I would definitely tell you guys to watch. It's called New Order by Mikhail Franco. It's really fantastic. I would tell you guys to watch that. But yes, Shadow in the Cloud, that was my most underwhelming film. I was underwhelmed by some other films, but that was the worst for me.
Okay. So I will say this is not a film, but sometimes TIFF does premiere TV shows. And so I got an opportunity to watch The Third Day. I will preface and say I've only watched the first 2 episodes. So far, they are underwhelming for me. I am a huge sci-fi fan, so I was really, really looking forward to this. But the first 2 episodes feel very cluttered. The plot line seems like slightly unclear still. Like you're like, okay, where's this going? I have no idea what's happening. I think they have a lot of characters that are not necessarily used well in those first 2 episodes. So I'm going to finish because I have to finish what I started. It is just how I am. So I'm definitely going to finish the episodes, and I am hoping to see some expansion and by the end actually get to be like, okay. I think it is 4 or 5 episodes total. I can't remember. I think it's 4. I think it's 4. It's 4 episodes, and then there's like a special event. So like technically those 4, yeah. So it's like technically, I think the storyline is supposed to be within the context of those 4 episodes, and this 5th episode represents something extra. Allegedly from what I read, but taking in all 5 of those episodes, hopefully, within the next couple of weeks, I'll watch the end, and I'll be able to give like a full review. But those first 2 episodes really were underwhelming for me, I will say. And that has nothing to do with the performances. I do think Jude Law is very captivating in it. He is the lead. I think he does an exceptional job. But for me right now, it's really the writing that is my biggest concern. And not having kind of that clear follow through that I really need. And so if you're not going to have the clear follow through for me, then you should at least intrigue me in the sense of like, I still want to know what's happening, but I didn't quite find that in myself yet. So I will say that. All right. So
I'll watch it. So
yeah,
I'm going to review it, but yeah.
I feel like everyone should still watch it, but still have 3 episodes left, which that's why I prefaced it like, okay, also 3 episodes, and I'm still looking for my girl Naomi Harris. I think that's also I know she's on the show, but I have yet to see her, and I'm like, which episode does she come in? Because I need Naomi Harris because she's a phenomenal actress. So yeah. Okay, Sharronda. So how did this virtual festival compare to in person? You giving it a thumbs up, you giving it a thumbs down, you giving it an even keel in the middle? What you giving it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complex question. Do I miss being able to see my friends, being able to like mingle and, really just see the audience's reactions to movies? Like us being able to talk about stuff when we walk out or, when we're heading to an event afterwards. Like I miss that. I miss like that. Having to sit in my room and watch movies all day. I want like the change of scenery. But I thought it was cool the way that they did it. I think they did a great job with the virtual platform. I do think from a critical standpoint that I would still prefer to be in person, because when you have the options of pausing, rewinding, getting distracted, like your phone ringing or, it's just so much that's happening that you're more distracted in your own home. And so I like being able to be removed from my own personal environment where you can fall asleep on movies or, the whole 48 hours of having to cram like 5 movies a day to be able to watch everything. It still gets very overwhelming at times. But overall, I did have a really great time with the virtual festival. And God willing, if we're relinquished from our prison of COVID, I really hope that I can see everybody in person in Canada next year.
Yeah. So Similar sentiments. Like I actually miss a lot of components about the in-person festival. One of those components being not having to juggle multiple things. So I do feel like when you have a virtual festival, nothing else in the world stops. Do you know what I mean? But if you're on the ground, your boots on the ground, everything else stops. So I felt like my inboxes have never been more full during the time of this virtual festival. Whereas normally, if I were in Toronto, everything else would stop. It's like, hey guys, I will catch up with you, when I'm back stateside. So I think that that's one of the aspects that I miss the most, just being able to be immersed completely in the festival and solely focusing on the festival is one of the things. To that 48-hour window, child, does not work. Like I do think next year, if there's a virtual component, they need to expand that. And something that I've seen with New York Film Festival thus far is that they have a larger window. Like one of them actually has, it's like a 6 day window, which is perfect because trying to figure out within 48 hours what you're going to see is just not realistic. Like, honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think that expanding that time would be just perfect. It would be wonderful. But from a technical perspective, I think that TIFF knocked it out of the park. Like in terms of, one, having their app available on Apple TV is a game changer. Having that Apple TV app, being able to watch these films on a larger screen. They had even the production of these films like down pat. I do think they did a stellar job. Literally my only criticism would be just expand the 48 hours. Otherwise, I do think they did a fantastic job, especially in a short period of time.
Yeah.
And especially with so many unknown variables, because again,
right.
COVID provides a lot of uncertainties in a lot of ways. I do want to say that for me next year, God willing, we will be back in Toronto. But if we are not, just expand that 48 hours, honey, and I'm cool with it. I am cool with it. Like I will manage all of the content, get it all done, cool with it. But I do miss in person because Sharronda knows my jam are interviews. I love interviews. And, not being able to do interviews this year was really hard and really challenging. And I was a little bit sad about it. So yes, more interviews. It seemed like interviews weren't even an option when it came to kind of our virtual scene this year.
Oh, they did interviews. It's just.
Well, they did, but they were super, super limited. And so, it's so much easier when you're on the ground. You can connect with the publicist face to face and you can really get those opportunities on the ground. So
also, the Q&As, I really hope that we could do something like that. Like kind of how Nomadland had a premiere and everyone watched it at that time. I think you get a lot of more context when you stay for the Q&As. And for those of you who've never been to a film festival, after they have the premiere of the festival, they typically invite the director and talent to come and do a Q&A, and they ask questions. And it kind of helps you provide you a little bit more context about what you've seen, which will help from a review standpoint as well. So
yeah. So I do miss that. So thank you for bringing that up. I miss that aspect as well. I did want to just put up Lisa's question. So we were actually unable to see Bruised.
Yeah, Bruised is still locked to Canada.
Yes. So only the Canadians got to see it. We were unable to see it, but it did get picked up by Netflix. So, we know it's coming. We know we are going to be able to see it in the States, but yeah, we were unable to catch it at the virtual fest. All right, girl. So finally, this is my last question. We are almost done with our 2020 review. TIFF, overall, we loved it. We're just hoping to do that in person again. But honestly, they still knocked out this virtual festival with what felt like ease to me. I know on the back end, they were doing tons and tons of work, but it was great. So what other film festivals are you looking forward to covering over the next 2 weeks? Are you covering over the next 2 weeks? What films are you looking to see in the next couple of weeks? Because you named two that I'm about to see for New York Film Festival. I'm going to see Nomadland and MLK FBI for New York Film Festival. Okay. So I'm excited about those. So what you looking forward to seeing over the next couple of weeks? Because I know it's going to be a busy 2 weeks.
I'm very busy. So right now I'm currently in the middle of 2 different film festivals. So right now I'm in New York Film Festival. I'm excited to watch the Alexander McQueen. Chad, I'm thinking about fashion for money that
It's honestly so easy to confuse their names,
right?
like just because you're like, oh.
Steve McQueen. Okay, get it together. Sorry, I'm still sleep deprived too. Also too, there are. I wanted to watch like the calming fauna. There's this short documentary on Muhammad Ali and James Baldwin. French Exit. I think it's called The Night Kings. And then also too from Urban World, I'll be covering that, which is a Black film festival. I'm going to be watching Charm City Kings, which I saw at Sundance, but I'm going to watch it again and get you guys a review for that. All in the Fight for Democracy, which is the Stacey Abrams documentary. Farewell Amore, which was another one of my favorites from Sundance, which was absolutely fantastic, that I'm going to review for Urban World. The Waterman, which was directed. What is it called? The Water? Yeah, it's called The Waterman. It was directed by Nick Yellow, which was a fun film as well. So, yeah, I have a ton of reviews coming. I'm going to start recording today, so I'm going to get this whole situation taken care of later this evening. But yes.
Okay, so yes,
AFI is coming up too.
Yes, AFI is coming up too. They are doing literally back-to-back festivals. So we have been in the trenches, honestly, like co-watching, cross-watching films. So for New York Film Festival, and honestly, to Sharronda's point, I'm covering all the same festivals she is. So we'll start with New York Film Festival. Like I said, No Man Land, MLK, FBI, Lovers Rock, which I have seen, and I will be getting a review out in some capacity sometime soon. So, those are good ones. The ones that Sharronda mentioned for Urban World. So I did not get an opportunity to see Charm City Kings or Farewell Amore at Sundance.
You're going to love it.
Yeah, so those two are high priority on my list for Urban World. I'm really, really excited to see them because, I miss those opportunities as well. AFI will come through like a strong wind sometime after Urban World, because we are truly like every week.
Like, when do we get a break? And we're still doing interviews in the midst of all of these festivals. So when we say we be tired and we be busy, because in TIFF, we had 2 whole full days of junkets.
Yes.
I'm trying to watch movies.
And we're still doing junkets. Like, I know, girl, I'm still doing interviews this week. You're still doing interviews this week for completely, separate projects that are non-festival related. A lot of them are like TV show one off. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I'm like, did I pause?
Sorry, guys, it kicked us out. But anyway, so yes, Urban World and AFI coming soon. More content coming soon. But definitely it kicked us out. So apologies for that. But that was our final thing that we were just going to say. Listen, we have a lot of coverage coming down the pipeline over the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned. Sharronda, where can everyone find you?
Oh, I think they wanted to know the last festival we talked about. That's the AFI festival. We don't know if we're in it yet, but that's another festival that's coming up. But you guys can find me at Pay or Wait on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, website, payorwait.com, YouTube, Pay or Wait. Yes.
Yes. And so what is your next video that's coming out? Tell the people.
I'm going to get The Way I See It, which is a documentary that I had the chance to see at TIFF. That's going to be coming out first. And my Lovecraft Country recaps for episode 5 and 6 will be coming out today. And that's it. That's
okay. can't wait to see him. And so you guys can follow me at the Lady KB on, Twitter and Instagram. And then this is my channel, Through the Lens of Lady KB. I'm clearly going to shorten that title at some point. When that will happen, I don't know. But thank you for watching this video, my very first live broadcast. And I'll be posting some more content from either interview clips, because we're doing a lot of interviews lately over the last couple of weeks. So I want to throw some clips out there. And I may have a couple of reviews or two that pop up along the way as well. So thank you so much. Have a fantastic day and chat soon. Bye.